So we think really very interesting to see how wearables or remote monitoring of patients can sort of integrate with modern delivery of office-based neuromodulation techniques. You could imagine, for example, that in your case at Camelback Recovery, somebody comes in for their recovery section and then they're kind of a stable phase, and you have a remote monitor, a wearable, or an app. And that app gives you some idea of if they're slipping or if they're vulnerable to slip. And that would provide the signal.
So who's a good candidate for TMS?
Well, so it's actually changing all the time. So somebody with treatment resistant used to require 4 medication failures, which is really high burden. Now most payers are down to about 2 medication failures. We have some that you only have to pass 1. And then we have tons of people that are basically just getting it without insurance reimbursement as a first line treatment and seeing really positive effects. So we're expanding that all the time.
Right. Yeah. There's more evidence that supports the benefits of TMS, and there's no side effects. So
right.
Why would you not try TMS first?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think actually that the sort of initial people that invented TMS and started the first clinical trials, they kind of knew that all along. The reason that we started with 4 medication failures is actually just sort of an artifact of how FDA approvals happen. So I think we've actually known for a very long time that people that are not quite as sick would experience a positive benefit from it. It's just taken a little while for the machinery of modern healthcare to catch up with our knowledge.
Right. Who's a good candidate for ketamine?
In some ways, very similar. So people that have treatment-resistant depression, PTSD is being used for it more and more. But again, the thing I think we mentioned before is that there is sort of black box warning on ketamine, particularly in the FDA labeled version. So you have to be careful for people that are vulnerable for substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder. And so also paying attention to medication interactions and things like that.
Right. I mean, as my experience, ketamine's been very helpful for a lot of people, but we're very careful. We typically don't refer people from our outpatient clinic for ketamine right away, especially not in the beginning. We'll refer them over to the integrated side for TMS because we've seen it work. We don't typically start TMS when someone's within their first couple weeks of sobriety, but then after a couple of weeks, it's no problem. It's what has been our experience.
Excellent. That's great.
To get a free copy of the 12-step guide that I created for you, click on the link in the description below. So let's talk about the future of mental health treatment. In your opinion, where do you see the future of mental health treatment headed, and how do you envision technologies like deep TMS shaping that future?
What a fun question. I think since COVID, we've seen mental health awareness increase tremendously, which is wonderful. We've also seen a lot of increase in remote abilities of people to connect with sort of telecounseling and telehealth, which has its ups and downs. The upside of that is ability for patients to interact with a provider. One of the challenges right now with the neuromodulation field is that generally it requires people to come into a clinic. And so we think really very interesting to see how wearables or remote monitoring of patients can sort of integrate with modern delivery of office-based neuromodulation techniques. You could imagine, for example, that in your case at Camelback Recovery, somebody comes in for their recovery section and then they're kind of a stable phase, and you have a remote monitor, a wearable, or an app. And that app gives you some idea of if they're slipping or if they're vulnerable to slip. And that would provide the signal either to give them some type of neuromodulation based thing that they could wear at home, or in the cases where it was more severe, to come back into the clinic for a little tune-up. So I think I hope we see a lot of integration between modalities to make all of these treatments more available to people that don't live in a major city, for
Right,
example.
right. Is there potentially going to be a way for someone to do TMS at home?
We hope
Example.
so.
Right now, a machine's 150 grand. So it's like, it's really not realistic for someone to buy their own machine. Most people anyways.
That's right.
So but in the future, geez, look at how far we've come in the last 5 years. We've got self-driving cars. 5 years ago, I didn't think that was possible.
That's right. And there's several companies that are currently, so there's a company called Remed who has a device that they're in South Korea. Have a device that they're developing for home use TMS. There's a variety of other that have wearable things that are, instead of using magnetic stimulation, they use something like a direct current stimulation, or they stimulate the cranial nerves through the face. I think Spark Biomedical got FDA clearance for treating opiate use disorder. There's a variety. I think the wearable market is growing. I think it's not, the evidence for the wearables at home isn't as strong as sort of office-based TMS. So I think there's a little bit of a road to go there. Who knows what will happen.
If you got value from this video, if you heard what you needed to hear, be sure to like it. Comment if you've got a question or you have something to say. Subscribe to the channel. Camelback Recovery provides treatment services for people struggling with mental health, mental illness, addiction, alcoholism, whatever it may be. So if you or a loved one is struggling and you need some guidance and you need some direction, reach out to us. Our contact information is down below, or you can go to our website, camelbackrecovery.com, whether it be detox, inpatient treatment, sober living, recovery coaching, sober companion services, whatever it may be. Like I said, we can either help you or make sure that you get sent in the right direction. We help people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. I'll see you on the next video.